Welcome back to the show. Welcome back to the show. It's your boy A Dub, and I'm with my partner in crime, Manny Boy. And today, there's a lot to dive into. It's a lot to talk about. It's a lot of things coming up that we here to announce to you guys. Little mix up here on our show, so stay tuned, stay ready, put on your seatbelt, cause boy, we finna take y'all for a wild ride today. But
Strap in.
Manny, go ahead and get us started.
Appreciate the opportunity as always, A Dub. Hey, listen, we're gonna go ahead and hit the fantasy recap. So here in the Crash Out League, A Dub, pull up the weekly scores, please, sir.
Gotcha.
There it is. There it is. So, hey, as you can see, there were a few close games. But I mean, there were some pretty dominating ones, no matter what, which way you look at it. Unfortunately, Coach Cam, who we had on last week, not able to pick up the win against Team Fabo. He continues to ride the hot streak. Smooth Criminal, who we had a couple weeks ago, not able to pick up that win. Mills Mafia now up to second and fighting for that first place spot, trying to regain the crown. Mo City Menace picked up a win against DMV Bombers. DMV Bombers still looking for their first win of the season. Team Luck maintains a firm grip on the first place lead, putting up 163. I mean, a monster week for him. Coach Jay Gibb not able to get this one done, 124. Shake and Bake, 116. Again, he's also riding a hot streak, and how the mighty have fallen. God bless Comerica Freewave. Coach Mike has now lost 3 in a row, putting himself at 4-3, and has dropped all the way down to 5th from when he first had that top spot. It looked like he was honestly going to run away with it, but that's how it goes here in the Crash Out League. So a lot of moving around, but nonetheless, wins up and down the place, and we are moving. No place is set here in the Crash Out League, not just yet.
You know, when it comes to you announcing all these different scores and everybody checking them out, it's honestly surprising how much you can't get used to being in the fantasy league because it's so unpredictable. You're literally depending on guys to show up week in and week out and get the stats that either they supposed to get or stats that people are projecting that they're supposed to boom for.
Right.
And all you can do is wait and see if they live up to their expectations and get your result at the end and just hope that it's enough to get you a win.
Yep.
Now, 2 games that I want to go ahead and address to really pay attention to. One of them is Shake and Bake versus God Bless Comerica. Like we said on the last show, some way, somehow, Coach MB has figured out how to play defense against his opposing people that he's going against every single week. It's always something. Whether that's somebody plugging in somebody not supposed to, somebody not paying attention to their roster that week. You would think by this point, people who's playing Coach MB would literally just go ahead and check their roster by the hour, by the minute, and if it was me, by the second, to make sure everything was up to date so I'm ready to put up the points that I'm supposed to, but unfortunately, through some unforeseen stuff that could happen in life, God Bless Comerica got hit with a violation this week. And a violation that, people are wondering what could he have done to ultimately end up helping him lose this week. Well, there was a rule set in place this week for the dues to be due, and God Bless Comerica team, Coach Mike over there, ended up missing the deadline, which cost him to lose a player in his slot, and he had to leave that place vacant. As you can see, Coach Mike doesn't have a receiver that week. And it's like, how could he not have plugged somebody in to help him win? Well, when the violation was filed and everybody went through the ruling, the punishment was you had to leave the spot vacant, nobody could play there, and you had to figure out how to win without it. And honestly, everybody knows in the PPR league, wide receivers are heavy. when it comes to putting up points. And if you end up missing a wide receiver in a week, it's going to be truly hard for you to come in and snatch a win. And that's what happened with Coach Mike this week. It ended up costing him another loss to continue the losing streak and bringing him all the way from first all the way down. And once again, shake and bake, squeeze by with another win, playing impeccable defense. Man, tell me what's on your mind about this defense of a performance that Coach MB is doing this season.
Listen, I mean, you can study it as much as you want, but plain and simple, he's able to get the wins when they count,
Come
and
on now.
that's just how it works. And I mean, again, he's been playing some really good ball. He's 5-2 right now, up to third place. He didn't have the hot start to the season that he would have wanted to, but again, doesn't matter how you start the race; it certainly matters how you finish it. So the way that he's playing right now, he's figured out the formula, and he's been able to play some really good ball, and so as we talked about, there were a lot of really good games this week,
Mm-hmm.
and one that we certainly had was the end product of it doesn't seem so, but it was Smooth Criminal versus Mills Mafia. Now this one was a few points, but if you notice, if you go down just a little bit, there's the man, Mike Evans, who was putting up a show in that early part versus the Ravens. And this one looked like it was going to be a shootout between Baker and Lamar. And unfortunately, it was a bad time for that hamstring injury to pretty much fully aggravate. And he was trying to play through it. He was trying to push off, training staff and fight through it. But I mean, if you were watching Monday Night Football, man, you saw that injury. It was one of those where you knew from the get-go, the second he hit the ground, man, he's hurt. And this isn't something that he's going to shake off. We talked about it before the show, A-Dub, but yeah, like you get the notification, oh, Mike Evans is questionable. You knew he wasn't coming back. You
He
knew that he
wasn't
wasn't
coming
coming
back.
back. Definitely not that night. And we pray that hopefully he'll be better. But this one definitely could have been a much closer game if Mike Evans stays in there for the rest of the game. I mean, again, he looked unstoppable. He had already had a touchdown. They were hitting him on the deep ball a lot. And on the play, that was a throw into the end zone, and it was a perfect ball by Baker, but unfortunately, not able to haul it in. And again, now he's got the hamstring. So reports are saying that he's getting an MRI, so they're going to try to see kind of the extent of that injury. But, I mean, with playoffs coming up, we'll talk about that later on. This is a big blow to a lot of people who are hoping to ride Mike Evans, the guy who's put up a lot of yards every year that he's been in the league. So an unfortunate loss there, but that one certainly was our game of the week, and it would have been a lot closer if not for the Mike Evans injury.
Yeah. Yeah. Just quite an unfortunate situation that transpired with the Bucks in that one game for them with the injuries that they was dealing with while playing the Ravens, and still was able to compete by losing by 10 points to them, which is kind of amazing in my eyes. But when it comes to fantasy, it's going to affect a lot of teams out there. So
Yeah.
hope you guys listen to it once we start chatting about that boy.
Now, we do have a crash out of the week. We talked about him a little bit. We're going to bring him up again. God bless Comerica. And it is because of the fact that that's 3 straight losses
3.
for Coach Mike. I know this one is kind of like that cherry on the top, right? That of the Sunday that you don't want to eat. But that is 3 straight. And they're going to try to have to figure out something fast over there. Because, I mean, you saw it. He was in first. So when this week started, and he's found himself all the way down to 5th. So if things don't start changing real soon, man, hey, it's gonna be tough sledding for a team that was really looking like they were gonna make a strong playoff push, to be unfortunately in the losers bracket come playoff time. So nonetheless, we talk about people going up, people going down. A-Dub, let's pull out these power rankings real quick, man. Let's show the people what we got going on here in the Crash Out League. And so as you can see there, Team Luck, once again, just kind of going up. Only 15 points off of 1,000 for the season, so very well could be the first player to hit that mark. Mills Mafia, I've said it before, they're coming for that top spot once again, sitting in second. Both, along with Shake and Bake, have a 5-2 record. So again, points 4 is something that we've talked about a lot on this show. That's going to be one of the most important things when you get into the postseason, is how many points did you score in the year. Doesn't matter really your record, but these 3 could shift at any point in
Yes,
terms
sir.
of points and the record coming up this week with a game on Thursday. And so Team Fabo, 4th, God Bless America, we talked about 5th. Coach Cam is in 6th, and so them 3 have the same record as well. So there's a lot of room for movement in between these 3 players to possibly get knocked out of the playoffs, move up in the rankings. So again, can't take your foot off the gas pedal. And then sitting at 3 and 4, Mo City Menace and Run It Back. These coaches just unfortunately not having the season that they want. They can turn it around. There's time to turn it around, but it's got to come quickly. And unfortunately, the sheer amount of injuries that we've seen in the season is not a help to anybody. But
Man,
Smooth Criminal finds himself in 9th with a 2-5 record. Again, time to turn things around, but it's got to happen this week, and it's got to be a bit of a hot streak that he's going to be able to ride, and he might be able to sneak into that final spot. And then DMV Bombers, fortunately, again, not the season that he wanted. He's been hit with the injury bug, I think, more than anybody in this entire league. So it's been tough sledding for him. 0-7, still looking for that first win. We'll see if he gets it this week. But those are your power rankings here in the Crash Out League.
yeah, just seeing this, just like Manny's saying, bro, do not relax. Do not take your foot off the gas. Just because you're sitting at the top does not guarantee you a spot in the playoffs. There's actually 5 weeks left until the playoffs start. And even if we go based off Team Luck, who's number 1 right now, if he goes the next 5 weeks and he loses all 5 games, he has the potential to go from 1 to not even being in the playoffs no more.
Yep.
There's not one team in this league that has secured their spot guaranteed into the playoffs. You see the 5-2 all the way at the top, the 0-7 and the 2-5 right there at the bottom 2. Those teams at the bottom could get hot right now and go 5 weeks straight to winning. And if you people at the top go 4 weeks straight of losing, this power ranking could change at a blink of an eye. So don't let up.
Definitely.
Keep pushing. Keep getting wins, and we'll see how the season turn out. Now, speaking on the pitchers changing for the playoffs, I'm gonna go ahead and pull up the playoff picture right now. If the playoffs started today,
let's do it.
So, as you can see, these are the teams who are in the top 6 out of 10 who are eligible at this very moment to be in the playoffs. When you are in the top 6, the top 2 get a bye week. So they miss week 13 and they head to week 14 waiting on somebody to play. Right now, it's looking like Coach Luck and Coach Barlow, the previous champion from last season, getting a bye week right now. Now, the people who are playing in the first round right now is Coach MB, Coach Mike, Coach Cam, and Coach Fabo. Now, when it comes to these weekend and week out playoff pitchers here in the Crash Out League, it's one and done the first 2 playoffs. Let me repeat this. Here in the Crash Out League, it's not like every other league when you get 2 weeks of play. You get 1 week in the first round to get it done, just like the regular season, and you get 1 week in the second round just like the regular season, to get it done. Now, when you make it to the championship, that's a different discussion. You get 2 weeks of play to go in, make your case for the first week, make adjustments, come back that next week to be able to come in and try to get the win and win the whole thing.
Right.
So I say that to prepare the coaches who's looking at this right now, even the coaches who don't see themselves in the picture right here. Don't think that you have a moment of time to step off the gas just a little bit right when you get into the playoffs.
Right. Right.
Because it's not like any other league where you get 2 weeks. You only get one. It's one and done around here, man. There ain't no series.
Yeah.
You got to get to that championship to make that series run.
Yeah.
So don't let your foot off that gas. This is the playoffs pictures for you guys right now. As you saying it, you 5 weeks out until the playoffs start. Don't let your foot off the gas, and we'll see how this picture look like as the week goes on.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's going to be the most exciting thing, right? Is how much is this going to change when we are getting into the playoffs, right? And there's a couple things to really look at. Coach MB is projected for 101 in week 13. Coach Mike is projected for 105. But how much does that change? Because, you might say, oh, we've already clinched the division if we are, let's say, the Lions, right? We already clinched the division. Let's go ahead and rest some of these guys so that we're ready for when playoffs really start getting going. So how much does that become a factor in this, really?
Right.
And again, you look at week 14. Coach Lucky is projected for 101. Coming off of 116 in week 13, 101 in week 14. How much is that going to change? Is it going to keep going lower? Because maybe some guys are going to sit out as we get closer to the playoffs, or some guys going to get more touches because they're trying to get that playoff push. So this is where you really start to see, like, you can't necessarily have all the best teams and the best players from those best teams, because when you get into the playoffs and all of them are secure in their spots and they don't want to risk injury, now you're left scrambling and you're kind of trying to put a team together in the last second. So it's good to kind of think ahead, but nonetheless, you got to remember, you have this challenge in front of you to make it into the postseason. That should be step number one. So you can't get too excited. You can't get too ahead of yourself about the league and about your record, because, like you said, nobody's guaranteed to be in the playoffs. Nobody's secured their spot. Nobody's ready to go. Nobody's thinking about the postseason quite yet. So you have to continue to keep working at it. So a lot of interesting things to think about here. We'll see how much this changes. But, I mean, hey, a big-time message to any coach out there. You got a chance, but you got to do it now. You got to do it now. And so with that, right, with making the playoffs, unfortunately, you don't see 10 names there because some people are going to miss the playoffs, and that's just, you just got to chalk it up to the season isn't what you wanted it to be, and you got to keep moving. But nonetheless, A-Dub, there's a few names that certainly do come to mind. Of course, Coach Matt with DMV Bombers. That's not the season that he wants. Again, he's not eliminated, but it's got to be a turnaround. It's got to be now, right?
Now.
So that's one.
Yeah.
But there's a few others that you think, man, you know what? I really had them being here, but they're not having the season that we thought, or they're kind of a fringe team sitting right on that edge where they're close, but they haven't shown a lot. And I think one of the big ones that I think about is team running back with Coach Jay Gibb. Coach Jay Gibb is normally a very good coach, picks a lot of really good teams and things like that, but right now projected to not make the playoffs. And with a 3-4 record, it's going to be a little difficult, because you're going to continue to play these teams who are putting up really big numbers. And so I think when I think about teams possibly missing it, I don't think I have any teams that are currently in the picture to come out. I do have teams that are out of the picture to stay out of it. And I think that's running back. And completely honest with you, I think that's Mo City Menace. I don't think either of them are able to make it into the postseason. Again, just competition is going to continue to get tough. Injuries are going to continue to happen, unfortunately. So both sitting at 8 and 7, respectively. Running back at 8, Mo City Menace at 7. I mean, we'll see, but right now it just doesn't look fantastic for the way these teams are moving.
Yeah, so coaches that's tuning in right now, take a snapshot of this, put it on the wall, put it in the locker room, so you can see where you was 5 weeks out to the playoff start, and use this as motivation to either stay in the playoff picture or to fight your way into the playoffs picture. Now,
Yeah.
speaking on fighting your way into the playoffs picture, like we said, you don't see all 10 teams here. There is 4 teams who are in the hot seat right now. And all 4 teams are in a win now situation when it comes to making the playoffs. You got Smooth Criminal, who's sitting at 2-5. You got DMV Bombers, who's 0-7. You got running back, who is 3-4, and you got Mo City Menace, who is also 3-4.
Yeah.
So
And, right. And A-Dub, when I think about winning now, right?
mm-hmm,
What's the way to
mm-hmm,
do it? Because unfortunately your team's not really able to get it done consistently.
right.
You got to hit the trades. You got to go find
Ooh,
somebody. You got to go get somebody. So
ooh,
I think we start talking about the trade deadline, right? So in week
mm,
12,
right.
trade deadline's done. That's when trade deadline hits. After that, your team is your team.
Mm-hmm,
And I mean, listen, obviously there's a lot of players that when you drafted him, you're like, man, this guy's going to be great. He might even be my league winner, yada, yada. But now you're here and now you're outside of the playoffs staring in. And so I think for a couple guys, it's time, especially, you know, guys that you say, you know what, I have some pieces, man, that I got to make a decision. Do I keep them or do I try to get 2 or 3 for this one guy? And now I got more pieces to work with. So trade deadline, I think, is a big thing. We've seen a couple trades already happen in the league. A big one that involved Malik Neighbors, right?
yep,
That seemed to be beneficial for, at first, I believe that was Coach Cam. But,
yep.
I
Highway
mean,
robbery.
Mills Mafia able to kind of steer the ship right again, and they're
Mm-hmm.
playing good ball once again. So,
All right.
but it's trade time. It really is. Because as much as you don't want to panic, you still got to understand, I'm not in the postseason.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, I can say there's all this time left, sure, but you got 5 games. You got 5 games to do it. And if you can't do it, something's got to change. So yeah, you might say, man, you know what? I'm gonna take this week and I'm gonna see how my team is. Okay, well now you got 4, and now
Mm-hmm.
some people are like, man, I'm cool with my team. I'm not giving up anybody. So
Mm-hmm.
now another week is gone, and another week, and another week, until you're staring the playoffs right in the face, and you're
Yep.
being denied access because you didn't make that trade soon enough. So if you got to finesse, you got to finesse. But
Do
either
what you
way,
gotta do.
you got to get yourself into the playoffs.
Do
And I
what you gotta do.
and I think trading is going to be the best way because listen, anybody can be a waiver wire demon. Anybody can be a person
Mm-hmm.
who's sitting and looking always, and sure you're reading the scouting reports and things like that, but it takes a true, real GM to be able to make a deal with another, especially in this league, because some of these GMs can be very stubborn. And
Yeah.
you got to be able to make a deal that you say, you know what, I might not be able to hit a home run, but I'll hit a triple, and I'll try to get myself to home base pretty soon. So that's a big time factor right now. Is a trade deadline coming up in week 12.
Yeah, the trade is gonna be huge for some of these coaches. Pretty much anybody when it comes around this time, you either on top or at the bottom. But regardless, when the trade deadline comes, it is not biased to anybody. This
Yeah,
is when coaches end up figuring in their head, I have to make a move before the deadline comes. It doesn't matter if you're dominated or not. Every coach has that thought process. Oh shit, the trade deadline is coming up fast and I haven't made a move yet.
Right.
That is the time to go in these coaches' office and trying to figure out who you could get to make your team better. And like I said, it's not biased to anybody. It's not just for these coaches who are at the bottom who is trying to make a move to get into playoffs. Maybe it's the coach who are already pitching themselves in the playoff picture and they feel good about the next 5 weeks and they just trying to get ready for the playoffs. You
Right.
know, trying to get some players who ultimately might not end up be able to participate in the playoffs because they GM just didn't make it with the team. Now, trade deadlines don't only affect teams that's losing, like I'm saying, it also affect you coaches who's dealing with injuries. Now, to get even more specific, we got team DV Bombers who had injuries all season. They should make a trade to try to go get a player to help them win a couple weeks. Then you got Smooth Criminal. I love Smooth Criminal's team. No bias, you know what I mean? But you sitting at 2-5, no matter how confident you are, like he was on the show a couple weeks ago. Yes, you're not going to 100 points, but you also not winning no weeks. You're on the losing streak right now. So maybe it's time to move off some big players like CD and Cooper Cup and go get some pieces. You know, then you got somebody all the way at the top, Team Luck. He just lost Chris Godwin to a foot injury last night. Now, how does his team look now after losing the number 2 receiver in fantasy right now? We don't know. But maybe he figures out a way to go get him a player or just stick it out with the players on his bench. But ultimately, the trade deadline makes you do something that we've been preaching since we started this show, Manny.
Yeah.
It's
Definitely.
time to pivot.
Yeah.
It's time for you to get on your high horses, get in them books, do some research, talk to some coaches, get some coaches' advice, and figure out what's the best move for you and make it. I know you might not feel 100% confident in it. I know you might feel like a coach is getting one over you. I know you might feel like you're not taking advantage fully of getting something from somebody else. But at the end of the day, as long as it gets you the win and another win to get into the playoffs, to have some hope to play for this $1,000 pot and the Lombardi trophy at the end of it, why does it matter?
Yeah. No, absolutely. And then you talked about it, you touched on it a little bit. Injuries are a huge thing right now, man. I mean, and there's just all the names that we can list, right? You talk about
Oh
Mike
my
Evans.
God.
Earlier in the year, Rashid Rice goes down.
Oh
Juju
my God.
Smith-Schuster on the Chiefs was starting to look like a very viable option once
Right.
Rashid Rice went down. He's
Right.
out. You talk about Godwin. I mean, Jonathan Taylor is a questionable player, so
Every
he's
week.
kind of like one of those you don't know. Rashad White is one of those questionable players that every week he's questionable. And then Saturday he's like, oh no, he's gonna play. And then you can finally breathe a little bit if you got him on your team. I mean, you really and then unfortunately there's a lot of defensive guys that are out. I mean, Aiden Hutchinson gone, right? And that's a big loss for the Lions. And
Prayers
if
up.
you have the Lions defense on your team, God, he was giving you sacks every week. You know, that was points. And now the pass rush isn't there so much. And we kind of saw that happen against the Vikings. It was a shootout. It was a shootout between Jared Goff and Sam Darnold. They were going at it. And that's just one of those things where it's like we don't really have that full kind of pressure, really. And then again, you know, there's guys like Deron Bland, who's set to come back, but he's still kind of holding back a little bit. DeMarcus Lawrence is on injury reserve for the Cowboys. There's just a lot of guys, and I know not everybody has him, but Deshaun Watson just went on injury reserve. He probably tore his Achilles. He's done. You know, he's done. And there's a few pieces that you don't have the player specifically, but he affects a lot of other things. Like Orlando
Right.
Brown Jr., the offensive tackle for the Bengals, he's questionable. That is the protector of Joe Burrow. That gets the running game going. That gets the passing game going. So all these little things. So not only do you have to really make sure that you're understanding all these injuries, but nonetheless, there's a lot going on right now. And he puts coaches in a position, A-Dub, where it's like, do I keep him and hope that he comes back quickly, or do I try to trade him away and get something for him because I got to win now? So, look, coaches, to you got to make the decision. We can't make it for you. But nonetheless, man, a lot of injuries going on right now. And not only did they affect this past week, A-Dub, they're going to affect the week after and this week coming up and probably for the rest of the season. And so with that, A-Dub, let's pull up this week's matchups, man, and let's pick out our matchup of the week. Big time games this week. And again, we talked about it, right? You got to win. You got to win. And it's got to come quick. So, as you can see, starting from the top, Smooth Criminals taking on DMV Bombers. Team Fuck'em is taking on Mills Mafia. Team Fabo is taking on Team Luck. Run It Back taking on God Bless America. And Mo City Menace finishing it off, taking on Shake and Bake. Now, I'm going to go for my game of the week. I'm going to go all the way down to Mo City Menace and Shake and Bake because Shake and Bake plays all the defense in the world.
I swear to
right.
Look, I heard a rumor. I heard a rumor that the commissioner has put out a full investigation.
He knows somebody in the league. He calls the officials and says, "Yo, this week, bro, you got to throw every flag on this dude specifically." He's gonna call
him catch nothing.
He's gonna call the officials up in Cincy and say, every time Jalen Hurts runs the ball, it's a holding on the offense. Bring it back. Bring it back. I need it. He's got to have 7 points by the end of this week. But that's the biggest thing that I want to see right now. Mo City Menace projected for a 67% to 33% win. Projected to put up 119 points. Shake and Bake, we've seen him just kind of get the win week after week after week. So I'm really interested to see, does Shake and Bake continue this streak, or does Mo City Menace, who needs a win right now, who needs to kind of get hot, does he put an end to it and start turning around his season? So this is my game of the week. A lot of interesting things are going to happen here, and just kind of players themselves, really interesting. I like this one.
Yeah, it's funny how the schedules ended up being when it's time to make the playoff push versus how the season was going. If you really paying attention to it and you've been following along what's going on, a lot of the teams who are fighting for a playoff position are going against the Goliaths that's all above them for the most part. So, like we said, you're in a win now situation. There's no longer time to sit out a week. Maybe we let this week pass and we go get it the week after that. Now it's time to show up, show out, and take the people out the playoffs who is holding you back.
Yeah.
So that's why I like you picking Mo City Menace, and I'm a back door, and I'm gonna go with the same pitcher, and I'm gonna go with running back versus God Bless America. Now, God Bless America is on a 3-game losing streak.
Yep.
Through a lot of adversity, everything started off hot, looking like they was finna run away with it. But unfortunately, for this past 3 weeks, they just have not figured it out, try to put up the points they've been doing, and they just been losing. This is the perfect time for running back to get hot, start off strong, and hit them with another L. And with them doing that, that also puts them at 4-4. And God Bless America at 4-4. You just evened it out. You just did your job this week by going ahead and taking out Coach Mike to go into the next week and try to get another win to replicate that. Now
Right.
you really put yourself in a realistic place to be able to go into the playoffs. So I'm gonna pick this game right here for my game of the week because Coach J. Gibb could either fight his way in or God bless America continue to hold him out from the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, depending on how both of our games go, right? It's like these guys are really clawing their way to just
Yep.
kind of try to make up ground. But
Mm-hmm.
if on the other side, if Coach Mike and Coach MB end up winning it, that just
Mm-hmm.
widens the gap that much more and makes it that much more difficult to close it, right? So a
Facts.
lot of interesting things to happen here. And then, as we always do, gotta love a good upset, right? So
Got to.
upsets of the week, and there's a couple that come to mind,
I got one.
but you see it on the screen, and it kind of it just draws me to it.
Okay.
I got the Bird Bowl, the Battle of the Arroyo, the
Okay.
Battle of Southmost, if you will.
Come on. Oh.
2956 boys representing.
Let's
2956
get
guys
it.
representing. This was close. 117, 119.
Mm-hmm.
But Team Fable's playing some really good ball. Not to say Team Luck hasn't been,
Right.
but I feel like week after week after week, we've been talking about, oh, Team Fable picks up another win. Team Fable picks up another win. So I really like this one a lot. I'm going to have to go with Team Fable to win this one over Team Luck.
Mm-hmm.
But both these guys got dogs. But it's one of those things where, is this guy gonna boom? Is this guy gonna bust? Is he gonna barely meet expectations? Because right now, I mean, hey, you need every guy to exceed expectations and then some. I mean, that's just the way that it goes. So I really like this one. I'm gonna take Team Fable.
Yeah, let's see if Coach Fabian could go ahead and take advantage that Coach Luck is missing Chris Godwin this week. So
Right.
I like that pick for you right there. Now, my upset of the week, this person could do the funniest thing this week. I'm talking about the ultimate, if I gotta go down, you gotta come down with me.
I'm taking
You know what I
everybody
mean?
with me.
The definition of reaching up and grabbing a person above you and pulling them down to end your season with. Right here, Team DMV
No. You're not
Bombers
coming to the playoffs.
versus Smooth Criminal. Smooth Criminal has some unforeseen injuries week in and week out and just ultimately ended up being 2-5. Now, DMV Bombers is right under him at 0-7 with the same type of injuries, even more injured than Smooth Criminal. So, this is the week for Team DMV Bombers to have to get their guaranteed win.
Oh my goodness.
They have to get it to even try to sniff a playoff picture. Right now, they're not even in the kitchen. They're not even in the house right now. You know what I mean? To even get on the sidewalk, they need to win this week. And Smooth Criminal is right now walking up to the porch trying to knock on the door. And DMV Bombers could do the funniest thing. Grab Smooth Criminal off their fucking porch and drag his ass to the street.
You're not going nowhere.
Because without this win this week for Smooth Criminal, the slimmest chance for him to make the playoffs comes even more slim.
Right. Yeah.
So I'm gonna go with DMV Bomber this week. Upset of the week, funniest upset of the week, funniest win of the week. Because you can't write this no better. Somebody who hasn't won a game all season gets them an ugly win.
Gets ready to knock somebody else out.
Knock somebody out the playoffs. Hey, man, just to speak on it just a little bit more, this the type of teams when it comes to this part of the season that brings joy to me. These are the type of teams that I laugh about because they know full well they're not competing for a playoff spot, or their chances to make it is like 0.01. But they don't care because they gonna keep playing hard because they know that they still got a couple weeks left, and in those couple weeks they could do the most damage that they can possible to mess up the playoff bracket.
Hey, it's one of those things. It's one of those things where you're like, dude, I got nothing to lose, so I'm
yeah,
coming with everything. I'm
that's the
coming
worst
with.
type of coach you can meet in a week. The coach that got nothing
I
to
got
lose
nothing to
is
lose.
the worst opponent that you want to see when
You
you try
gonna
to get
catch
into the playoffs.
everything. Yep. Yep.
Man. So I like this game right here. I'm surely gonna be paying attention to it rather than any other game. But yeah, let's go with this for upset of the week.
Should be a good time nonetheless. But the reason why we do all of this, right? The reason why we love it, the NFL, man, got some good games going on this week. Currently, you and I, man, hey, we're picking some good ones, and we're picking the winners. I sit at
Oh,
10-8. You sit
it's
at
close.
11-7. We are above 500 each, so we are
Yep,
getting
yep.
ourselves our wins no matter what. So
Mm-hmm.
we have the Eagles versus the Bengals, sitting at Sunday 12 p.m. Then we have the Bears, the Commanders, Sunday 3:25, and then the
Mm-hmm.
Giants, Steelers, Monday Night Football. That one 8:15, depending on where you are in the country. So let's go ahead. Let's circle all the way back around. Eagles, Bengals. Eagles having an all right season. There's been some ups and downs, some hiccups. The Bengals didn't start off hot at all. I mean, the loss to New England, we thought, man, this is going to be a really, really bad show. And the Bengals are starting to turn around a little bit. Joe Burrow's starting to play some really nice ball right now. Obviously, the connection with Chase is certainly still there. So, A-Dub, who you got in this one?
I think I'm gonna have to go with them Birds. I'm gonna go with Philly and them Eagles. I honestly believe this is the time that they get hot to make a playoff push for themselves. Now that they got AJ Brown back, Devontae Smith back, it's time to start making those connections, figuring it out, because every week that goes by is a week that you lose to be able to get it connected and get it right between your quarterback and your receivers. Saquon Barkley has been balling. You don't have to worry about your running back position. Now it's time to get the offensive going between the quarterback and the receivers. And I think this is the time to do it against a struggling Bengals defense. Now, I say that and I picked them because last week the Bengals was 21 to Cleveland's 14
Mm,
without Deshaun Watson. They struggled. They struggled against that team. Not to put down Cleveland's defense because that's a great defense.
mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I feel like with your high power offense and depleted defense, with the injuries that they have, you should have been able to handle that game a little bit better than y'all did.
Yep.
So I'm gonna go with the Eagles this week to go ahead and get it done against the Bengals.
Green's an ugly color no matter which way you
Oh my
wear it,
God,
no
I
matter what
swear to
shade you
God,
have,
he's a
you
hater.
know?
He's a
So,
hater. I
give me the
know what he
Bengals in this
mean by
one.
that.
Shout out to the Bengals, man. Shout out to Joe Burr, Jamar Chase, man. That connection's starting to get stronger and stronger every week.
Joe
Uh,
Shiesty.
I like the Bengals in this one. And now in another NFC or in a NFC battle, it's the Bears going against the Commanders. Hey, truly and really, the Commanders are starting to play some really good football. I mean, Jaden Daniels is
Man,
playing some really good football. And the Bears,
man,
they got some say in it themselves. It hasn't
come
been
on now.
the kind of explosive way that they wanted. I'm sure a lot of Bears fans would have liked that the Bears just came in and started running things from the get-go. But you do see flashes of greatness and of being a special player in Caleb Williams. So we'll certainly see what that experiment looks like as it moves forward. But Bears, Commanders, Sunday, 3:25. Man, I think just for this one, I think the Bears have a few more options on offense. They brought in a big time receiving core and a lot of different guys Keenan Allen and DJ Moore and things like that. So I think that's going to overwhelm the Commander defense just a little bit too much. I like the Bears in this.
Yeah, this game could be special. You got two Heisman winners
Mm-hmm.
potentially playing if they decide to play Jaden Daniels this week with
Right.
his rib injuries that he has going on. But not only that, if he doesn't play, you have another Heisman player and Marcus Mariota, the backup, who played unbelievable once Jaden Daniels went down. 205 yards, two touchdowns, 18 for 22, I believe. So
what a performance,
you almost not losing the step by if you have to play Marcus Mariota, which is a blessing that most people can't say unless you're a Texas Longhorn with Quinn Ewers and Archie Manning.
True.
Just to put that in there.
True.
You know what I mean? But if Jaden Daniels is not able to play this week, I'm going to have to go with the Bears. I'm going to stick with the Bears. They have a great defense. And not only that, Manny, they're on a 3-game winning streak headed into the bye. They're coming out the bye. Before that, they won 3 games in a row. There is no better option for a team than a team who is able to go on a winning streak until they bye week, get some rest, and come out and head into their first week. So I'm going to go with the Bears. They seem like they're clicking right now. The defense has always been there. Now the offense look like it's about to get I'm going to go with the Bears.
Yeah. I like that pick, definitely. You and I taking on the same team. And then finally, man, Monday Night Football. Love it.
God.
Giants versus Steelers.
Come on now.
And listen, based on what I saw the last time the Steelers were on Monday night,
go with some respect now. Some respect now.
I got to take the terrible towel in this one, man. Definitely. I mean, see, it was interesting because at times Russell Wilson just wasn't Russell Wilson, right? And then we understand you're not going to get Seahawks Russell Wilson. That was years ago. But one thing that I found really interesting while watching that broadcast was Mike Tomlin said, hey, if we go back to Justin Fields, we're not switching. We're staying with Justin Fields for the rest of the season. So it'll be really interesting. And I think that decision probably won't come until late on who they're going to go with fully. But nonetheless, one quarterback got you to the top of your division, and the other picked up a big-time win in prime time versus the Jets with their shiny new toy in Devontae Adams. I like the Steelers in this one because they're able to play complementary football with each other. The defense plays lights out when it needs to, and the offense is able to get the job done when they need to. So nonetheless, whether it's Fields or Russ in the backfield, I like the Steelers on Monday night.
I'm going to have to go ahead and say I'm going to go with the Steelers. I don't want to say it. Pops love the Steelers. Whole rivalry, dog. They still fuck them boys. But
shout out
I'm going to ride the Steelers this week because I got to know ball and I got to put the bias to the side. But the Giants has a lot of controversy on their side of the ball right now. Last week wasn't pretty for them. It wasn't. It was so ugly that Malik Neighbors went to the media during his interview and he said, if you check the film, check the targets and see how many times that I was open and I didn't get the ball. Now, when I hear something like that, it feels like the relationship is kind of making a tear between the quarterback and your star receiver, or maybe you just not seeing eye to eye right now, and that's just a recipe for disaster to me. And I cannot put my faith in my picks to stay above Manny with that type of controversy. You know what I mean? The Steelers is looking hot right now. They're looking like they're the team that's going to control games week in and week out. And honestly, they look better and good with Russell Wilson to me. You know what I mean? The run game was even more better because they had to respect Wilson throwing the ball down the field to George Pickens, who's been waiting on the quarterback to be able to throw the deep ball, and Russell Wilson can do that.
Yep.
So with all those factors, it's either you go with a household with a mom and dad in it, or you go with the household with mom and grandma. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Ain't nothing wrong with either household, but a little bit more structure over here. You know what I'm saying? So I'm around with the Pittsburgh Steelers right there.
Yeah, man. I mean, I think it's safe to say that this is probably the beginning of the end for Danny Dimes, unfortunately. It's just the biggest. I think the biggest thing is you understand. God, that's such a huge cap hit because you gave him a lot of money.
A lot of money.
You gave him a lot of money in the Giants.
You didn't need to give him all that money.
And unfortunately, it caused you to lose Saquon Barkley because you couldn't figure out the money. And now with Malik Neighbors, you really think if the Giants still had Barkley and maybe a B tier quarterback, not somebody you ought to pay so much money for, but you got Malik Neighbors on the outside, this could be a pretty dangerous Giants team. But unfortunately, Saquon's wearing green, and Malik Neighbors is getting a little frustrated with Danny Dimes. So we might see this one get a little frustrating, but nonetheless, man, yeah, I got to take the Steelers in this one too. Good games all around, but we
good
definitely
games all around.
But we liked these three the most, so we wanted to highlight.
Yeah. Well, appreciate y'all for tuning in to another episode here in the Crash Out League TV. We love y'all for coming in, running those numbers up, hitting the like button, subscribing, commenting, and stuff like that. We're going to continue to bring you guys content, report to you guys what's going on here in the Crash Out League and how the NFL is affecting the things in the Crash Out League, because honestly, we have nothing better else to do right now. So appreciate y'all.
What else would you do?
Come on now. So appreciate y'all once again for coming in and showing some support. We'll catch y'all guys next week.